Hi, Grégoire. Very glad to have you today.
Hi, nice to be here.
It's wonderful that you take the time to introduce yourself to the whole Hotwire company. Can I just ask you as a start to explain who you are and what is your role currently?
Of course. So my name is Grégoire Martinez. I'm basically head of strategic projects and communications for Station F. Station F, for those who are not familiar with what we do, it's the world's largest startup campus, meaning that we welcome more than 1,000 early stage startups at any given time. And our goal is to provide them all the resources they can need to grow their projects and their business. And so we're based in Paris, in central Paris. It's a 34,000 square meter campus with public administrations, mentorship offices from tech companies like Apple, Google, Amazon Web Services, or OVH, for example. You also have more than 200 VC funds from France and from abroad. So as I mentioned, 1,000 startups that are divided into 30 different incubation and acceleration programs, some of them run by corporates, some of them run by schools, and some of them that are managed by what we call the Entrepreneurs Network. And then each of them is focuses on a specific theme or industry to ensure that we always have a program that can match all startups' needs. And the last thing we have at Station F is that we have a massive restaurant open to the public 7/7 and a co-living extension, so housing for entrepreneurs 10 minutes away from Station F. And
French.
to get back perhaps to, yeah, and to get back perhaps to what I'm doing at Station F, so basically managing the team, working on all our communications internally with all the startups, all the partners, externally with press and politics, managing all our event strategy, all the communities, so ensuring that people meet each other when they're at Station F and that they have a great experience, plus all our development projects.
Wonderful. And in addition to that, you have a former background of broadcast tech journalist, right?
Yeah, before joining Station F, I was a technology reporter for the French radio Europe 1, doing both broadcasting and articles for the website. I've done that during like 3 years with a huge focus on tech and economy.
Wonderful. So you are, I guess, the ideal person to ask today, what are the main trends in tech and what is actually blooming or not in France?
Yeah, it's a super good question, and I think the tech ecosystem is moving super fast. And at Station F, we're lucky enough to have, as I mentioned, 1,000 early stage startups. So it gives you, I think, a great view on the trends of the ecosystem. So currently, I think, as everyone probably already saw, but startups in Web3 and crypto are booming, of course, and we just announced a partnership with Binance to open their first program on Web3 and crypto. But another trends we see at Station F, and that probably make less noise than Web3 and crypto, it's green tech, basically. It's more and more important within the French ecosystem. The government is pushing a lot investment on this field, with a dedicated plan called France 2030. And the government also launched an initiative to support especially green tech startups with La French Tech. So it's something we see more and more at Station F. Can be like, so one of the main strengths of the French ecosystem is doing software. We're not yet so good at hardware, but I think we're quite good at software. So we have startups working on, for example, software to measure your carbon footprint, whether it's as a company or as an individual. We have a deep tech company working on a plant that will be able to capture CO2, basically. Also, so yeah, I think it's an ecosystem that's booming, and both green tech and Web3 are the main trends we see right now in France.
And do you think there are important differences between France and the rest of the world when it comes to tech?
I think we have differences in terms of our ecosystems are growing and how they are managing their growth. In the US, and especially in Silicon Valley, since a few years now, it's really tough for startups to hire talents because you're competing with big tech companies like Apple, Google, etc. Cost of life is super expensive too. If you are a young startup, an early stage company with not a lot of funds, it's some entrepreneurs actually told us that it was impossible for them to hire like developers in Silicon Valley, and it's a bit different in France. So of course you have a lot of openings for developers and salespeople within French startups, but we're lucky enough to have great coding schools and engineering schools in France. Plus, cost of life is less expensive than in Silicon Valley, and so we are now able to attract talents and startup founders from abroad. And we see that at Station F because 1/3 of our entrepreneurs are from abroad, and the most presented countries, it's first US and second China. And so we have like American or Chinese people that move to France to grow their startups. So I think it's not in terms of sectors or trends, but it's more in terms of how the ecosystems are managing the growth.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And yeah, coming back to the US and the other side of the ocean, we know that we are currently facing a crisis. You mentioned Web3, you mentioned crypto. What is your perception of the impact we can expect here in Europe?
So I think the current economic situation will definitely has an impact on fundraising, of course. So it's already like the case for probably late stage startups and scale ups who are looking to raise like Series B or C or D, and valuation are going a bit down. So basically, valuation were super high during the past months. So some people will tell you that they are going back to normal, and that's a great thing. So depending on how you see it and you understand it, for early stage startups, it's still quite easy to raise funds. Honestly, at Station F, we mostly focus on early stage companies, and we see it's still like preserved quite well. And perhaps another. So I mentioned already the differences between the US ecosystem and the French ecosystem, and how they manage their growth. And I think it's quite the same in terms of how they manage like the employees. In the US, and without being in the cliche, but as soon as you have a crisis, companies will tend to lay off people quite quickly. In Europe and in France, it's not possible to do it the same way. And so I think it will probably basically startups will probably hire less people, but currently we've not seen any layoff yet, at least.
Okay, so you think that they have anticipated the risk and the wave?
So
the impact will be smoother?
Yeah, I think it will be smoother, honestly, and that the impact will be less important in Europe than in the US. And I don't know if we can say that's a great thing, but usually the wave starts in the US. So European companies can basically anticipate a bit more than US companies when it comes to this crisis. So yeah, I think it will be like the impact will be smaller in Europe. That not means that it will have no impact, of course, but it will be like smaller.
Thank you. Last question, Grégoire, because you have this double background, which is just perfect for what we are currently looking for at Hotwire. So you are a past journalist, and you become communicator. So as a communicator, do you see any trends or any special moments happening that you would like to share with us?
That's a good question too. I think so. It's like I will not take my view of managing the communication of Station F, but more what I'm seeing within the ecosystem. You have more and more startups, which is a great thing for the economy, for the ecosystem, etc. But more startups means also more competition in terms of communications, basically. And so if you want to be visible as a young company, the competition is much important few years before. So I think it's super important to be able to tell the right stories, to ensure that you're not just like selling your product to journalists by telling, okay, it's amazing, we're doing that, and that's it. You really need to tell like the background story, why it matters for people, for potential customers that basically are readers of the journalists, of the medias. So I think it's a challenge for entrepreneurs, and especially young entrepreneurs. They usually have room for improvement in terms of communication, and it's fully normal because it's not like that jobs. Most of them are salespersons or developers, technical persons, so not specialists of comms. And it's super important to teach them on how to communicate the best way possible.
That's great, because it's perfectly aligned with Hotwire positioning currently, which is more becoming a consultancy than an execution company. So thank you very much, Grégoire, for your time. Thanks a lot. Good luck with Vivatech, and see you soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.